And outsourcing is eventually a great story to play out. But do you think Obama is going to be a lot more constrained this time by his political performance back home as he makes a trip to India next week?
I think he's looking forward to the trip to get away from the political maelstrom back home. I don't think he'll be constrained at all. It's clear the Democrats are not going to do as well as they hope. Whether they'll indeed lose the House or lose the Senate, I can't predict. But Obama's going to be president for 2 more years, number one. And number two, there's no Republican right now, well, I would argue, who could beat him in a national election. He may be president for 6 more years. So what he's got to really sit back and figure out is, how do I get the most out of the next 6 years?
That's right. But that also means that how do I give back to my people? And my people, which is in this case the American people, want their jobs in America. So to pick up from where Nandan left it, how do you see that whole outsourcing backlash playing? Will that be the big theme that would sort of remain like a shadow over
Well, you tell me the rate of unemployment in America, and I'll tell you the rate of stories about outsourcing. It's just a barometer. It's something people can seize on. But people really lose sight of the fact that most jobs do not get outsourced to India. They get outsourced to the past. We used to have a receptionist at the New York Times Washington bureau. We now have a microchip, a voicemail device. Okay, so we didn't get someone from Mexico to take her job. No. Technology took her job. And ultimately, that's what's really churning jobs out there. And the trick is basically to educate your people well enough. In America, I'm speaking as an American, so one American leveraging great infrastructure and technology can do the job of 20 Chinese, so can be paid the job of 20 Chinese. But if we don't have a country where people are educated enough, have the quality infrastructure, or learn to be productive with technology so they can leverage it at that scale, then our wages will go down to whatever the global mean is.
Yes.
And so that's, I think, the challenge. And the job of the president in this moment is, as I'm sure is the same challenge Nandan and your prime minister face here, is educating people to what world they're in. Okay, because if people don't know what world they're in, if they don't understand that when a company outsources a product or a service to India, it's actually saving money that it then uses to invest in another product or service in America.
That's only if you could convince Obama to give that theory out there.
I hope he does.
What are you expecting, Nandan, as the person who has been in technology and now on the policy side? Could Obama's visit in the first term of his being president be a game-changing one for India?
Well, really, I'm not really clued into what's going to happen when he's here, but I think certainly I know that he has a great deal of admirers here. Everybody respects that he has been able to make it to the President of the United States, and I think that's a remarkable achievement. And also, I think it reflects the openness of American democracy, and I think so we have a lot to learn on that front. So I think it will be a very good visit. I really can't say what will be the specific things that will come out of it.
But on what basis do you expect it to be a good visit? Is it because of the relationship has sort of been warm between the Prime Minister and him, or do you think the geopolitical issues will be a bit of a thorn in there?
I think just his stature, I think his personality, I think his rise, they're all very intriguing to Indians. So I think he will have a very good reception.
Okay, let me flip that question and ask you. Let's say if you were to sort of suggest to members of your team or the policy side of the governance story, what is the one thing you would like to ask Obama on his visit?
Well, I think, I personally believe that, relations between India and America have never been better, but there's a lot more that we can do together. So I think I would look at focusing on how to keep increasing the strategic relationships.
Okay, what do you feel about that? I mean, he's coming at a time when we're talking about currency wars, fragility of economies back in the US and of course Europe as well. India and China, supposed superpowers, but I think there's the conviction that they will never make it as close to the US and certainly not so soon. All of this gives US the confidence or the jitters?
Well, I think India and America are doomed to be friends here. There's no question about that in my mind, because when you look at, first of all, India's geographical location next to China, next to a rising China, there's going to be a closer U.S.-India relationship as part of that balance. That doesn't mean a hostile one vis-a-vis China. We're going to war, but it's a natural geopolitical thing. That's number one. Number two, this is as Nandan said, this has got a young population, high aspiring, huge potential market for the United States. And number three, culturally, we are both democracies. We both have many, many English speakers. I think I was at the state dinner for the president at the White House, and I looked around. It was amazing how many Indian Americans were there, Indian American businessmen, professors, professionals. Our countries have a lot in common. So I see this the beginning of a long-term relationship between the United States and India. There'll be things that'll hold us back.
Yes.
There's no question about that.
What would be those things, especially in context of China?
Well, in the context of China, first of all, India does not want to have and cannot afford a hostile relationship with China. By the way, that's not what we're advocating either. I think more it has to do with India's socialist legacy. There are communities here that are uncomfortable with globalization. There are communities here that are uncomfortable with any kind of global geopolitics that would cast India, a country that's always seen itself more in the non-aligned mode, as part of some strategic alliance. So I think we, America, have to be very humble how we approach this, brick by brick, and I think that's what you're going to hear Obama talk about. Let's work in agriculture. Let's work in healthcare. Let's work on open trade. All the things we have in common to take the relationship beyond civ, military, nuclear to something that's very deep between the two countries.
You said agriculture. I'm not so optimistic there, given the amount of baggage we've carried. But let's come to the whole idea of inclusive growth again. Where do you think India and the US probably can come together on a project like yours, for example? I mean, this is really the start of a big piece.
This is very much. I think one area, for example, is both countries are looking at using technology for open governance. President Obama has been in the forefront of how data of the government should be shared. We have the right to information here. They have the Freedom of Information Act. He has two Indian Americans working for him, Manish Chopra, who is the CTO, and Vivek Kundra, who is the CIO. And both of them are looking at how governance can be remade with technology to put information in the hands of the people. And we are dealing with very similar issues here. So that's one clear, and they're both linked to this issue of common values, shared democracy, transparency, the same things. So I think that's clearly one area where there's a lot of commonality of purpose.
And when you say, transparency, now that's again a place where we always keep looking at India and saying, when will India move out of that big story? And I know you're more of a policy maker than an independent corporate today to talk on that subject. But what do you think is sort of challenging for India in this new growth paradigm in the post-crisis world to deal with the whole transparency factor?
I mean, transparency has a lot of ramifications. I basically see that if we can bring in more and more governance systems using technology and make transparency a byproduct of that technology, and then put that information out real time into the public domain and make that data accessible to outside people to analyze any way they can, that will dramatically have a positive impact on transparency. There are a lot of the initiatives, the open data governance. The US, for example, has this data.gov where they put all the data and people can analyze it any way they want. So some similar things are happening here. So I think that's a great way to create transparency in a lot of things that we do. And that combined with the right to information that gives people the right to ask for that information, along with these systems, I think can have a very positive impact.